France in 1789 was a country with a king who had two great passions. One was the fate of his nation, and the other was locks. Louis XVI spent hours in his personal forge, crafting lock mechanisms with genuine enthusiasm, while his country collapsed around him. His wife Marie Antoinette had a hairdresser named Leonard who charged 24,000 livres a year, roughly what a village of 300 people earned growing food. She once attended a ball with a 3-foot ship in her hair, a real one. This was considered normal. By 1789, France was broke. Louis had spent 20 years funding the American Revolution partly out of spite toward Britain, which was admirable if you ignore that France could not afford lunch. He called the Estates General, a meeting of clergy, nobles, and commoners that had not convened in 175 years. His plan was to ask them to agree to new taxes. The commoners arrived with roughly 40,000 written grievances. Louis was surprised. He had apparently expected a brief pleasant chat followed by unanimous yes votes. He got neither. The Bastille was a medieval fortress in Paris that served as a royal prison. On July 14, 1789, an angry Parisian mob stormed it in search of weapons and prisoners to liberate. They found 250 barrels of gunpowder and exactly 7 prisoners. 1 was a forger, 2 were lunatics, and 1, the Comte de Solage, was imprisoned specifically because his own family had paid the king to lock him up, presumably because they found him difficult at dinner. The mob freed them all anyway. The revolution had a flair for the symbolic, even when the symbols were underwhelming. In June 1791, Louis XVI decided he'd had enough of being a constitutional monarch and attempted to flee France with his family. His disguise? He dressed as a servant. The plan was elegant until the moment at Varennes, when a postal official named Jean-Baptiste Drouet recognized the king's face from a coin that Louis himself had minted with his own portrait on it, because he was the king and that is what kings do. Louis was recognized, arrested, and escorted back to Paris in humiliation. Historians have described it as catastrophic. That feels generous. October 1789. 7,000 women from the markets of Paris decided to solve the bread shortage personally. They marched 12 miles in the rain to Versailles, dragging along several cannons in case polite negotiation proved insufficient. They stormed the palace, killed 2 guards, and essentially kidnapped the royal family, forcing them to move to Paris where the people could keep an eye on them. This event is called the Women's March on Versailles, and appears in roughly 1 paragraph of most school textbooks, which tells you quite a lot about which historical events we choose to take seriously. The revolution eventually discovered that overthrowing a king was the easy part. The hard part was deciding what came next, and France turned out to have roughly 47 incompatible answers. Maximilien Robespierre, a lawyer from Arras who genuinely believed in virtue and guillotined approximately 17,000 people proving it, ran the Committee of Public Safety until his colleagues had him arrested and executed, which took about a year longer than it should have. Then, Napoleon Bonaparte arrived, looked at the ruins and announced he would be in charge now. Everyone was too tired to disagree. France called this progress. Historians call it France.